Alright, let's see what we got here on the play. And alright, willing to keep it. It's a 2-lander, but a couple of cantrip creatures and some acceleration. So definitely like having turn 2 Elvish Visionary in this type of scenario. And it looks like our opponent could be on a deck like ramp or green-white tokens, because we see Oath of Nissa. We'll see what that reveals. And it looks like Fortified Village is the revealed card, so we are up against green-white tokens. So we're just going to go ahead and start ramping, start setting up our game plan, while I'm sure our opponent is going to try to do the same. Is going to be a Sylvan Advocate. So here we can just go ahead and cast Nissa's Pilgrimage. There's some argument to playing a card like Nissa Vastwood Seer instead, but it's normally correct to just get your lands out first and then start casting the other spells in the deck. So the Sylvan Advocate is going to start plucking away a little bit here. It looks like our opponent has another one as well. So we drew Sight Beyond Sight. So a few different options here. We can play the Sight Beyond Sight we just drew. We can play some combination of these other cards as well. And it's pretty close. I think we just want to play a morphed Den Protector here to get back our Nissa's Pilgrimage potentially, and to have a reasonable blocker for these Sylvan Advocates. If our opponent has a card like Dramoka's Command, we're just going to live with that scenario. And it looks like instead it's Declaration in Stone. But that's okay. We're going to get a clue. We're also going to get back this Nissa's Pilgrimage. So our opponent's still having to use one of their better removal spells. Well, I should say one of their only removal spells. And we're just going to take the hit from the Sylvan Advocates. So now we could actually go ahead and try to flip our Nissa Vastwood Seer if we wanted to. We could start with Nissa's Pilgrimage and then play Nissa Vastwood Seer. And that seems pretty reasonable, actually. So, yeah, let's go ahead and try this line. It could be that our opponent has Dramoka's Command, which would be annoying, but I think we want to go ahead and try to flip Nissa as proactively as possible. And so now that Nissa's flipped, we're just going to go ahead and put a Shaya into play so that we have 2 blockers. Hopefully this works out. It may not. But if it does, then our opponent's not going to be able to kill Nissa, and we'll be able to untap with her in play, which would be great. So like this turn, our opponent may have been planning on casting Avacyn. Instead, it looks like, okay, another Declaration. Normally, green-white plays 1 or 2 declarations. It looks like this version is playing at least 2 in the main deck, so Nissa is going to hit the bin. But we're at least preserving our life total. We've still got this Sight Beyond Sight in reserve. And we actually drew a copy of Part the Water Veil for the turn. So We can think about casting that here, but we can't cast it with Awaken, unfortunately, for this turn. So I think we just want to go ahead and save the Part the Water Veil for next turn. And lead off with the Sight Beyond Sight, or we could lead off with Elvish Visionary. It may be better to start with Elvish Visionary. See what we hit off the Visionary first. Because if we did draw Crush there, we would just want to cast it. We did not draw Crush. So I think we just want to now... Well, we could just cast another Elvish Visionary so we have more chump blockers. I think Sight Beyond Sight's probably a little bit better here. Just to be able to give us more information. So it's Cascade, Skyline Cascade, and Island. We don't really need the Skyline Cascade at the moment. So I like just taking the basic here. And yeah, we probably just want to go ahead and get the Elvish Visionary into play. We have actually drawn all of our Elvish Visionaries, which is pretty unlikely. So we have a little bit of a choice here in terms of what we want to do. I think I'm just going to go with the option of chump blocking one Sylvan Advocate, taking the other one. That's going to put us down to 10. And it looks like a main phase copy of Avacyn, which is pretty interesting. And, okay, also a Hangerback Walker. So the plan is to just flip this Avacyn immediately, which is definitely annoying. We wish we had chumped an additional Sylvan Advocate. But we're just going to deal with it. This is going to put us down to 7. And we're going to be able to rebound our Sight Beyond Sight. And so we have an option now between Den Protector and Anticipate, which is a pretty interesting choice. We're definitely looking for Crush. But, yeah, just going to grab the Den Protector. It's the more powerful of the two. And take our draw step. So this turn we may just want to go ahead and part the Water Veil. I think I like that. We're just going to play our land for the turn. Awaken, part the Water Veil here. And we're going to awaken on the Lumbering Falls. And this is going to give us another turn to kind of think about how we want to proceed. I think we want to start with Anticipate because we are still looking for Crush of Tentacles. So let's go ahead and start with Anticipate here. We found a Crush. So we're going to grab it. And we have a clue which we can actually pop if we want to. But I don't think we do actually need to pop the clue here. So we're just going to go ahead and Crush of Tentacles with Surge. And that's going to mean the Avacyn and the 2 Sylvan Advocates, as well as the Oath of Nissa, are going to return to our opponent's hand. And then I think we just want to go ahead and cast this Nissa's Pilgrimage here. And that's actually going to be the last 2 forests coming out of our deck. And now our opponent's going to get the turn, but we have 2 pretty significant threats on the table now. And we've got access to 11 mana. So we have the ability to play a morphed Den Protector and then flip it and return Crush of Tentacles and just rebuy our Crush of Tentacles, if that's what we want to do. So we'll see if our opponent opts to try to play Avacyn here. And that could be what's going on. So, yeah, I think we just want to go ahead and see if our opponent casts the Avacyn. So start off with an attack. And if our opponent does cast an Avacyn, that's actually quite good for us, because we're just going to bounce it back to our opponent's hand. And our opponent's now using all of their mana. So, let's go ahead and execute the game plan. And this is what the deck's basically meant to be doing. And now the Den Protector is just going to come back, so we can just do the whole thing again next turn if we want to. And so we've still got our Octopus and our Lumbering Falls, which are actually representing lethal if our opponent were to take the attack from both of these creatures. Avacyn is actually one of the more annoying cards because it does have flash. Anything that our opponent would be playing at sorcery speed is much less threatening. So it looks like just an Advocate here and potentially a passing of the turn. So, few different options here. We do have an additional Lumbering Falls, which we could fire up. If we just simply attack with both of our creatures, our opponent's pretty likely to just either flash in Avacyn and block, or chump block. Either of those situations are good. I think we just want to attack here and see what our opponent wants to do. So it looks like it's actually going to be a chump block. So that's fine. Our opponent's going to go down to 8 here. And there's really no reason to replay Crush here. So I think I like just going ahead and anticipating. So let's do that. And we found Explosive Vegetation and another Sight Beyond Sight. So we'll take the Sight Beyond Sight. And cast Elvish Visionary. What we don't want our opponent to be able to do is flip Avacyn. And we actually drew one of our best possible cards here, which is Void Shatter. So that is pretty likely to be able to just ice this game up, because we're going to be able to counter our opponent's Archangel Avacyn. So, yeah, we're just going to play this face down Den Protector, have Void Shatter up for this Archangel Avacyn, and so we can basically let it resolve if we want to, but there's not really a need to, so let's just go ahead and counter it. And, yep, our opponent's just going to concede, so on to sideboarding here. So, against green-white, they don't have that many creatures, so Send to Sleep, it's okay, but it's not completely necessary, so we're okay with boarding it out. We'd actually rather have Clipwings as an answer to Avacyn. And we do want negates for the most part, just on the draw being able to deal with Anissa or Gideon is pretty important. Ulamog is also just a nice top-end card to have. And we probably don't need... We can shave on explosive vegetation. And I'm going to go ahead and cut and anticipate for this third negate, just so we have more counters in our deck. And yep, that seems pretty good. Let's try this for game 2. So we are on the draw, and it looks like our opening hand does have 2 come into play tap lands. With that being said, we're still going to keep it. We've got a lot of stuff we're going to be able to do once the hand gets off the ground. That being said, we're still vulnerable to our opponent curving out with something like a 2-drop into a Nissa Planeswalker. That's the type of draw that we're most worried about. And our opponent does have actually one of the best 2-drops against us, Lambholt Pacifist. So we drew an untapped land. I like just going ahead and anticipating now, trying to prevent the Pacifist from flipping. We basically have no choice on the anticipate. We're going to take an island, which is fine. So hopefully our opponent doesn't have something like a Nissa here. Okay, our opponent does have a Nissa. So that Nissa could go down to allow the Pacifist to attack, or it could go up and try to move towards going ultimate. So it's going to be interesting to see which of those 2 options our opponent elects to take. And it actually is going to be the counter option. That's the one that personally I was most scared of, because it's just such a fast clock. So we're just going to go ahead and play our Nissa Vastwood Seer here. We want to get that thing flipped as quickly as possible. And we don't want to use it as a chump blocker. We might have to. But we're definitely going to want to explosive vegetation next turn. And our opponent's got, a solid draw. Our draw isn't bad, but this is just a ton of pressure we're facing down at the moment. And we're kind of forced to just go ahead and cast this explosive vegetation, even though it's not really what we want to be doing at the moment. And yeah, we would have liked to be able to use the Skyline Cascade on the Pacifist, but not sure we had a great opportunity to do so. So yeah, this is just going to mean a chump block with our Nissa. We can't afford to take all of this damage, so yep, just going to chump block. And our opponent's going to pass, which indicates an Archangel Avacyn, actually. So we're going to get to play the Skyline Cascade. At this point, it doesn't do a whole lot. Maybe we should have played it earlier. I'm not sure. But now we can cast this Part the Water Veil. Hopefully our opponent doesn't actually have the Archangel Avacyn. And we actually drew Nissa's Renewal for the turn. So that could gain us 7 life, put us up to 13. So that's one direction we could take. But I think we just want to surge in this Crush of Tentacles. So let's cast and anticipate. And We probably just want the land to keep our land drops going, so I'm going to take the Lumbering Falls. And we're going to surge out the Crush, play a land, hope our opponent does not have Avacyn in hand. It looks like our opponent does have Avacyn, though. So that's pretty good. That's going to represent an attack to put us down to 2 life. And there's an Oath of Nissa. So yeah, I mean, this is just pretty much the worst case scenario for us. We're not completely out of it. But yeah, our opponent looks like is deploying both a Planeswalker here and Avacyn. And interestingly enough, is just going to tick the Nissa down, which makes sense just to try to pressure us as much as possible. So, I think we're pretty much locked into casting the Nissa's Renewal this turn to try to gain some life and stay in it. And yeah, there's not really a big benefit to attacking with the Octopus. We could hold up Void Shatter, but that doesn't make a ton of sense either. We can just go ahead and play this Den Protector face down, and I think that's the best course of action here. It could be that our opponent has a removal spell for it, which would be bad for us, definitely, but we're not in a spot where we can play around a whole lot, unfortunately. And okay, it looks like our opponent's just gonna flip Nissa's Sage Animist and completely cash in Voice of Zendikar. So it looks like we're most likely going to fall to 3 on the attack here. Alright, well, we have a turn here. We actually drew Crush, which is pretty one of our best draws. So we just have to figure out exactly how we want to proceed. We are going to want to unmorph the Den Protector. We're also going to want to be able to not die on our opponent's next turn, obviously. So being able to surge the Crush would be nice. Alright, let's go ahead and unmorph Den Protector here. And we can actually, if we want to, return the Nissa's Renewal and try to play that game, which I kind of like. So yeah, we're gonna go for this the greedy line and return Nissa's Renewal to our hand. And cast the Nissa's Renewal and sort of hold off the Crush of Tentacles plan for a turn. It could come back to bite us, but now we have 3 more lands in play. We've gained even more life. We could hold up the Void Shatter, but it doesn't seem necessary, actually. So yeah, I think we're fine with just casting the Sight Beyond Sight here. And we found a Nissa Vastwood Seer. And we're definitely just going to pass the turn here. So our opponent actually peeled a Secure the Waste off that Nissa Sage Animus, which is terrible news, of course, for us, because that's a card that's going to represent lethal damage. And the Pacifist is going to flip, but we're going to be able to rebound our Sight Beyond Sight here. So we're going to cast it. And not really what we were looking for here. I guess we want to take this Nissa's Pilgrimage. Yeah, we'll take the Pilgrimage. And get a draw step. It's another Sight Beyond Sight. So we basically have a free attack here with our Octopus. So we'll take that, even though it's not really particularly relevant. Yep, like we thought, our opponent's just gonna jump block here. So now we get to cast Crush with Surge. And we're going to get our Den Protector back. We can now cast Nissa Vastwood Seer. Get a Forest. And flip our Nissa. We're going to plus Nissa. And we found an Elvish Visionary. So, yeah, we're just going to continue on getting all of our lands out of our deck, basically. And now our opponent's going to get the turn back. We have Part the Water Veil now in our hand, which is a nice one to have for sure. And it looks like our opponent's going for Avacyn rather than Secure the Waste. So we could counter the Avacyn, but that's going to mean we're pretty much going to have to find a way to deal with the Secure the Waste. It's pretty close, but I think we actually want to just counter this Avacyn. If our opponent does secure here for 3, then that's not the worst. So now what we can do is we can set up Den Protector to get back our Void Shatter. Alright, so let's go ahead and start with a Morph. And yep, it looks like our opponent's conceding. They see the writing on the wall. We can get back Den Protector for Void Shatter if our opponent goes for the secure. We can also unmorph Den Protector to get back Crush of Tentacles. So either way, the Secure the Waste isn't good. We also have Part the Water Veil. So our opponent's just going to concede, and that's the match. Wow. Didn't think we were going to win that game.